The game where she squealed in delight and kissed her husband, Prince Harry, before jumping up and down, hugging friend Kelly McKee's Finn.
About the skin color of their unborn child were King Charles, Prince Charles at the time, and...
Is Meghan Markle genuinely considering going on Piers Morgan Uncensored?
The internet stopped. Millions of people just froze, staring at their screens in complete disbelief. A video started making the rounds on social media, and it wasn't your typical celebrity moment. This was different. This was intimate, something nobody was supposed to see. Picture this: Prince Harry, barefoot on his plush beige sofa in Montecito, just casually scrolling through his phone like any other day. He looked relaxed, comfortable even. Then Meghan walks into the frame, laughing loudly with a friend holding a glass of wine. She's teasing him about never watching the Dodgers with her, joking that he's still too British after all these years. Seems cute, right? Just a normal couple being playful at home. But here's where everything goes sideways. That wasn't a behind-the-scenes documentary clip. That wasn't some planned Instagram story. Home security camera footage. And get this, Harry had absolutely no idea it was going to end up online. Within hours, hashtags exploded everywhere. The video racked up millions of views across...
Never have we seen a showbiz fall from grace quite like it. Meghan Markle...
every platform you can think of. And Harry, he was furious. This time, the paparazzi weren't invading his privacy. The tabloids weren't breaking boundaries. Someone much, much closer to home did. Now, before we get into what really happened, hit that subscribe button and smash the like, because what Harry did after finding out, it changed everything. And you don't want to miss how this whole thing unraveled. Turn on those notifications, and let's dive in. So let's break down what people actually saw in this footage. Harry's sitting there on this plush beige sofa, completely barefoot, just scrolling through his phone like it's any regular evening. He looks totally at ease. You know, not performing for anyone, not putting on a show, just existing in his own space. The kind of moment we all have when we're home alone and nobody's watching, except someone was watching. Then Meghan bursts into the frame, laughing really loud with a friend who's visiting. She's got a glass of wine in her hand, giving Harry a hard time about never wanting to watch the Dodgers with her. She's joking around, teasing him that he's still too British even after all these years in California.
Win with a sweet PDA moment. On Saturday, November 1st, the Los Angeles Dodgers beat the Toronto Blue Jays.
The friend's cracking up too, and on the surface, it looks pretty harmless. Just a wife playfully roasting her husband, right? The kind of thing that happens in living rooms across the world every single night. Here's where your jaw should drop. That entire scene, home security camera footage. Not a documentary crew they invited in, not some carefully planned social media post with ring lights and perfect angles. This was security footage from their own house. The kind of camera you install to catch intruders, not to create content. And Harry didn't have a clue it was going to end up on the internet for millions of people to watch and rewatch and dissect frame by frame. When he first saw it circulating online, friends say he was completely blindsided. Imagine scrolling through social media and suddenly seeing yourself in your own home in a moment you thought was private, being analyzed by strangers across the globe. People he'd never met were commenting on his body language, his...
Prince Harry made a surprise appearance in Vancouver on Monday evening where he attended the Canucks game at Rogers Arena.
Facial expressions, whether his laugh sounded genuine or forced. That's not just uncomfortable. That's a complete betrayal of everything he thought was still his. His home, the place that was supposed to be sacred, just got broadcast to the world without his permission. So what happened after Harry saw that video everywhere? Behind closed doors, things got intense really quickly. Friends say Harry absolutely snapped. He told Meghan she'd crossed a line that couldn't be walked back. This wasn't some minor disagreement about what to have for dinner. This was fundamental. His whole thing was simple but powerful. How can you turn our home into content? Think about that for a second. Your home, the place where you take your shoes off, let your guard down, stop performing, where you're not a public figure or a celebrity, you're just Harry, a guy on a couch with his phone, and now that's been packaged up up and served to millions of people like it's entertainment. Meghan's defense? She tried telling him it shows people the real us.
Week, the Duke and Duchess enjoyed a date night to Game 4 of the series, joining a star-studded crowd where they were seen on their feet as they clapped and cheered on the Dodgers.
The happy side. She genuinely seemed to think this was a good move, that people needed to see them being normal and playful at home. In her mind, it was humanizing, relatable, showing the world that they're not just these untouchable figures behind mansion walls. They're a regular couple who jokes around and watches sports and drinks wine. But Harry wasn't buying it, not even a little bit. For him, this wasn't about looking good online or managing their public image. Trust. That's what this came down to. Boundaries that shouldn't need explaining. He didn't care if it made them look happy or relatable or whatever spin she wanted to put on it. The point was, he didn't get a choice. His private moment got turned into public property without him even knowing. Here's what makes this even more intense. Harry left his old life specifically to escape the constant cameras, the endless documentation of every single move, the feeling that his entire existence was being watched and judged and analyzed by people who didn't know him.
The Duke and Duchess of Sussex were at Game 4 of the World Series last night, cheering on the LA Dodgers at Dodger Stadium. We're playing.
That was literally the whole reason for the move to California. Freedom, privacy, the ability to just exist without performance. And now, sitting in his Montecito living room, that same trapped feeling was creeping back in. Except this time, the cameras weren't coming from tabloids or the media. They were already inside his house. Within hours of that video dropping, the internet absolutely exploded. Hashtags started trending everywhere you looked. Hashtag Harry didn't know was all over Twitter. Montecito meltdown hit millions of views on TikTok. People were sharing, reposting, commenting nonstop. This wasn't just celebrity gossip anymore. This became a full-blown cultural moment. Piers Morgan didn't waste any time weighing in. He called it out hard, saying everything's content to her, even her own husband. Meghan Kelly jumped in too, saying it felt like Harry's just a character in Meghan's reality show, not an actual partner with agency.
Harry and Meghan Markle. No, wait, is it Prince? Harry? Is that and Meghan Markle just came on Fix.
Major media personalities with massive platforms were making it clear that something felt really off about the whole situation. Then the body language experts showed up. You know how the internet loves to analyze every tiny detail? They started breaking down the video frame by frame. Harry barely smiled during the whole thing. He looked away when Meghan was talking. His laugh seemed forced, like he was going through the motions but wasn't actually present. Comments flooded in from regular people too. He looks so uncomfortable. That's not genuine happiness. You can see it in his eyes. He doesn't want to be there. The timing made everything worse. The video dropped right during William's big Earthshot event. This massive environmental initiative that was getting tons of media coverage. Suddenly, instead of talking about climate work, everyone was talking about the Montecito drama. People started asking questions. Was this intentional? Did Meghan time this release to shift attention? It wouldn't be the first time headlines pivoted at a weirdly convenient moment.
If you have your spouse.
Social media became a battlefield. Some people defended Meghan, saying it was just a sweet moment and everyone was overreacting. But way more people were on Harry's side, pointing out that he looked trapped, uncomfortable, like he didn't sign up for any of this. Clips got dissected in slow motion. Screenshots got turned into memes. Every facial expression became proof of something. Whether he was actually miserable or people were just reading too much into it didn't even matter anymore. The narrative had already taken over, and once the internet decides something, there's no putting that genie back in the bottle. So the internet backlash was brutal.
Meghan Markle is cheering on her home team. The Duchess of Sussex takes to social media.
But the real damage was happening behind the scenes in Hollywood. PR executives who used to court Meghan for projects, they started quietly backing away. Not in some dramatic public way, but in that subtle Hollywood fashion where calls don't get returned and meetings get postponed indefinitely. The kind of ghosting that happens when you've become a risk. Projects that seemed like absolute sure things suddenly went under review. Podcasts that were supposed to launch, lifestyle deals that were in the works, brand collaborations that had been months in development. All of it hit pause. Sponsors got nervous. Because here's the thing, when your entire brand is built on authenticity and being relatable, and then footage surfaces showing obvious tension, that's a massive problem. You can't sell authenticity when people think they're watching someone perform. One Hollywood insider put it bluntly, when your brand relies on the perception of control and realness, and the video suggests the opposite, sponsors start asking questions.
Why did Prince Harry apologize for wearing this hat?
I would like to apologize to Canada.
Harry was snapped with Meghan wearing an LA.
And they were asking a lot of questions. Companies don't want to attach themselves to drama. They want safe bets, people who make them look good, not generate headlines for all the wrong reasons. Even Meghan's loyal friends started hesitating to defend her publicly. People who'd stood by her through everything, who'd gone on record supporting her time and time again. But this time, crickets. Defending this move meant potentially looking bad themselves. Nobody wanted to get caught in the crossfire or have their own credibility questioned for backing a play that clearly backfired. The whispers around Hollywood got louder. Was her judgment off? Had she pushed too far this time? Could she recover from this, or was the damage permanent? Powerful people in the industry, the ones who greenlight deals and write checks, were asking these questions. And when those people start second-guessing you, your options shrink real fast. The carefully built media empire that had taken years to construct.
We are seen sharing a sweet kiss. It appears the Duke wasn't exactly excited for his wife's home team.
Was showing serious cracks, and everyone in the business could see it happening in real time. Harry wasn't just going to sit there and let this keep happening. At some point, you hit your limit, right? That moment where you realize if you don't do something now, nothing's ever going to change. And Harry hit his. Hard. Friends say he started demanding full say over anything that featured him at home. Surprise clips showing up on TikTok, done. Footage appearing online without his knowledge, over. Waking up to see himself trending because someone decided his private moment belonged to everyone, anymore. He drew a hard line and the message was crystal clear. My life isn't content unless I agree to it. The first thing he did, cut back on appearing in her projects almost completely. Podcasts she wanted him on, not happening. She'd pitch these joint appearances, talking about how great it would be for them to share their story together, how audiences loved seeing them as a team.
Let's go!
But Harry started saying no. Videos where she wanted him to make a cameo, just pop in for a minute to wave or say something supportive. Nope. Brand deals that required both of them to show up and smile and play the perfect couple. He was suddenly unavailable, had other commitments, couldn't make it work with his schedule. It wasn't subtle either. People in their circle noticed the shift immediately. Harry wasn't just busy or tired or needing a break. This was deliberate and active pullback from the whole media machine they'd built. The guy who used to show up for everything, who'd stand next to Meghan at every event and every interview, was now ghost, and everyone knew why. He was done being the supportive husband who just went along with whatever media plan was on the table, done nodding in the background while she controlled the narrative. Those London trips started happening more often too, like noticeably more often. Officially, they were for charity work, veteran events, mental health initiatives, things Harry genuinely cared about and had been involved with for years. Nobody could really question it because these were legitimate commitments. But friends say the real reason was simpler than that. He needed the space, somewhere that felt like his, where he could breathe, without worrying about what was being filmed or recorded or packaged for public consumption. In Montecito, there was this constant underlying tension, this feeling that something might end up online. Every conversation, every relaxed moment, every time he let his guard down. Was there a camera somewhere? Was this being documented? Would he see this clip in a month with some caption about their real life that he never approved?
Did you notice Prince Harry's behavior after the Dodgers won? No one realized that his relationship with Meghan might already be falling apart.
London wasn't perfect. It came with its own complications and its own set of eyes watching. But at least over there, he knew what he was walking into. The rules were clear. The boundaries were established. There weren't hidden cameras in his sanctuary. Then he started doing something really interesting. Something that showed he wasn't just running away from Meghan's approach. He was building his own. Harry began granting interviews to journalists he actually trusted. Not the big, flashy media outlets that would sensationalize everything or people who'd take one sentence and turn it into a week's worth of headlines. Instead, journalists with integrity who'd proven over the years that they could handle a story with nuance and respect, who wouldn't twist his words or turn a genuine conversation into clickbait. And in those interviews, he was opening up on his own terms, sharing his perspective, his experiences, the things that mattered to him, not through Meghan's lens or some carefully crafted joint narrative they'd workshopped with a PR team. Just him, speaking for himself, being honest about his life in a way that felt authentic instead of performative. He talked about mental health, the struggles of adapting to life in America, missing certain aspects of his old life while appreciating the freedom he'd gained. Real stuff, human stuff. The kind of content that actually connected with people instead of just generating controversy. This was absolutely huge. For so long, Harry had been reactive. A story would break, a video would leak, and he'd respond. Someone would publish something, he'd issue a statement through a spokesperson. That was the pattern, how he'd been operating for years.
I think it's important that we once again address the blue-hatted elephant in the room.
Constantly on the back foot, playing defense, trying to correct the record after someone else had already written it. But now he was being proactive, getting ahead of the story instead of chasing it, deciding what got shared and how before anyone else had the chance to do it for him. Friends say it was like watching him wake up, like he'd been on autopilot for years, just going through the motions, letting other people make decisions about his life and his image. And suddenly he remembered that he could actually steer his own ship. Permission wasn't required, approval wasn't necessary, he just needed to take the wheel. People close to him said they hadn't seen him this decisive in years, maybe ever. He wasn't asking for opinions or running decisions by committees. He was just doing what felt right for him, protecting what needed protecting, sharing what he wanted to share. And yeah, it created tension at home, massive tension. But for Harry, that tension was worth it. Because for the first time since moving to California,
been sitting in front of Sandy Koufax, which we just saw right there at Game 3, right?
That's a Dodgers hat, right?
But how is...
Maybe for the first time since leaving his old life behind, he felt like himself again. Not a supporting character, not a prop in someone else's production, just Harry calling his own shots, living on his own terms. He wasn't just a character in someone else's show anymore. He was taking charge, making moves, deciding what parts of his life were public and what parts stayed sacred and private. Events he'd attend versus ones he'd skip. Interviews he'd do versus ones he'd decline. Stories he'd tell versus ones that would remain his and his alone. And that shift, that fundamental change in how he approached his own life, it changed everything. Not just for him, but for the entire dynamic between them. Because once someone takes their power back, there's no pretending it didn't happen. There's no returning to the old arrangement and expecting them to fall in line. The game had changed, and Harry was finally playing by his own rules. While Harry was busy taking back control of his own narrative, the carefully constructed empire they'd built together was starting to fall apart.
There were two reasons for wearing it. First, our host that night, or those those who haven't watched CTV News.
Not a slow decline over months. This was rapid, visible, like watching a building demolition where one support beam goes and suddenly the whole thing comes down. Streaming services that had deals in place, they started delaying releases. Not canceling outright, but pushing dates back indefinitely. The classic Hollywood move when you're not sure if something's gonna be toxic. Projects that were supposed to drop in a few months suddenly didn't have release dates anymore. Just vague promises of, we'll announce something soon. The lifestyle podcast that was supposed to be their big thing, indefinitely postponed. The documentary series Netflix had been developing on ice. Producers were suddenly having second thoughts about whether audiences really wanted to watch a show about a couple whose real-life relationship was generating more drama than any scripted content could. Brand campaigns got put on hold too. Companies that had signed on, that had invested.
Oh look, everyone, Meghan Markle's posted another episode of Keeping Up with the Harkles. This time she has blessed
serious money, suddenly wanted to reassess. Because here's the thing about lifestyle brands and celebrity partnerships. They're built on image, on people wanting to be like you or buy into your story. And when your story becomes drama instead of aspiration, when people are watching you for the chaos instead of the inspiration, that's when brands start backing away. A fashion brand that had been planning a collaboration quietly shelved it. Then a wellness company suddenly went with someone else. A tech partnership that was supposed to launch an app, radio silence. These were major partnerships that would have brought in serious money and kept their brand relevant. Then something leaked that made everything worse. Someone close to the situation shared a message supposedly from Meghan that said, if Harry won't play along, nothing else matters. Not if we're not on the same page, but if Harry won't play along, as if he was a piece on a chessboard that wasn't moving the way she wanted. His cooperation was the only thing that mattered, not his feelings or his boundaries.
Meantime, Danielle, back here in the States, Prince Harry had to issue an apology to Canada. What was that all about?
That message spread like wildfire. Within hours, it was everywhere. Social media went absolutely crazy because it confirmed what a lot of people had been suspecting all along, that maybe this wasn't a partnership between equals. Maybe this was a production, and Harry was expected to perform his role whether he wanted to or not. The optics were terrible. Even people who defended Meghan before started questioning things. Behind the scenes, the situation was getting more chaotic. Staff members were stuck in the middle, trying to navigate between two people who clearly weren't communicating anymore. Some projects needed both of them to move forward. Joint appearances, couple interviews, both names on the project. And when Harry refused to participate, everything ground to a halt. You can't do a couples podcast when half the couple won't show up. The podcast that was supposed to be their big comeback completely stalled. The lifestyle brand that was supposed to compete with Goop in total limbo, documentary series that streaming services had been genuinely excited about, on pause.
Harry and Meghan are here watching some baseball as well.
While everyone waited to see what would happen next. The story they'd planned to tell wasn't the story anymore. Speculation started flying everywhere. Would the podcast even continue? Could their brand survive if they weren't presenting a united front? Industry insiders were talking, and what they were saying wasn't good. One person in entertainment put it bluntly. You can't sell couple goals when you look like you're barely speaking. The whole foundation of their brand is crumbling. Another producer captured the impossible position they were in. Every brand they've tried to build has been about them as a unit. The couple who chose love. The partnership who stood up to the establishment. Take away the partnership angle, and what's left? Two separate people who are less interesting apart than they were together. Their entire brand had been built on a specific narrative. Two people against the world. Love conquering obstacles, breaking free to build something authentic.
Weirdly, Meghan Markle just happened to have herself on camera, along with Prince Harry, at the moment, and shared this little gem.
That was the story they'd been selling, and people had bought into it. But now, cracks were too visible, tension too obvious, and the behind-the-scenes reality kept leaking out. And when your brand is your relationship, and your relationship is falling apart, there's no pivot strategy. that fixes that. You can't spin that away. People started wondering what would happen if they actually split up. They'd built everything together. Joint projects, shared deals, combined appearances, everything was structured around them as a package deal. If Harry kept refusing to participate, could Meghan carry it all alone? And what would Harry's brand be without Meghan? Could he rebuild something separate? What made it all more intense was watching it happen in real time. You weren't reading about this years later in a polished biography. This was unfolding on social media with everyone watching and analyzing every single move. Canceled appearances became headlines within hours. Postponed projects became more signs of deeper problems.
Not for the players, not for anything else, but publicity. It was a very obvious.
The internet turned into this massive focus group dissecting their every decision. TikTok videos analyzing body language, Twitter threads documenting every project delay, Instagram posts comparing their current situation to old interviews, Reddit discussions breaking down the financial implications. Opinions were everywhere, theories multiplied by the hour. Everyone had something to say about what was happening and what it meant. And the verdict wasn't looking good for the brand they'd spent years building. The consensus seemed to be that their brand, at least as it had existed, was finished. Maybe it could be rebuilt into something else, but the version they'd sold to the world was over. The fairy tale had ended, and unlike actual fairy tales, there wasn't a happy ending in sight. Here's the thing that nobody saw coming. The whole dynamic between them had completely shifted, and it happened fast. Harry went from being the guy who just went along with everything, who nodded and smiled and showed up.
And so naturally, Canadians believe his loyalty should have been to the Toronto Blue Jays. Harry apologized
When he was supposed to being the one saying, not anymore. A massive change, the kind of shift that doesn't just affect a relationship, but rewrites the entire power structure. Meghan's calculated moves were backfiring spectacularly. Strategic releases, carefully timed posts, attempts to control the narrative, all having the opposite effect. Instead of making her look relatable and authentic, it made her look controlling. Where she expected sympathy, she got backlash. And the more she tried to fix it, the worse it seemed to get. Online, people started taking Harry's side in huge numbers. The shift in public opinion was dramatic and undeniable. Comment sections that used to criticize him for leaving his old life behind were now filled with support. Finally, standing up for himself. Good for him setting boundaries. He deserves better than this.
It was supposed to be a casual, fun outing at the Dodgers game. A chance for Harry and Meghan to show off their normal Hollywood.
The narrative had flipped, and Harry had become the sympathetic figure in all of this. Social media campaigns started popping up with hashtags supporting him. Hashtag Team Harry was trending. People were creating fan accounts dedicated to his solo work and independent appearances. Videos analyzing his journey from being controlled to taking charge were getting millions of views. He'd gone from being the guy who abandoned everything to someone who'd been trapped and was finally breaking free. Insiders say Meghan didn't see this coming at all. She'd been so focused on managing the public image, on crafting the perfect narrative, that she didn't realize it was slipping away from her entirely. Friends close to her said she was genuinely shocked by the intensity of the backlash. She'd thought the home video would humanize them, make them more relatable, show the world their authentic selves. Instead, it had exposed the cracks she'd been trying so hard to hide. The realization hit hard. PR strategies, careful planning, content creation, and brand building, none of it was working anymore. In fact, it was actively hurting. Every move she made seemed to push Harry further away and turn public opinion more against her. It was like watching someone try to hold sand. The tighter they gripped, the faster it slipped through their fingers. Harry, meanwhile, was thriving in his newfound independence. People who saw him at events said he looked lighter, more relaxed, more like himself than he had in years. layers. The tension that used to be visible in every photo that forced quality to his smile. It was gone. He was doing interviews on his terms, attending events he actually cared about, spending time on causes that mattered to him personally rather than what looked good for the brand. He wasn't playing the supporting role in her show anymore. He'd stepped out of that dynamic completely and was building his own thing, his own identity, separate from the couple brand they'd created, and people were responding to it. His solo appearances were getting positive coverage. His interviews were being praised for their honesty and vulnerability. He was connecting with audiences in a way he hadn't been able to when everything was filtered through their joint narrative. The power dynamic that had defined their relationship for years was over. Meghan made the decisions. Harry went along with them. She controlled the messaging. He supported it. That entire setup had collapsed. Harry had reclaimed his agency. He was making his own choices, setting his own boundaries, deciding for himself what he would and wouldn't participate in. And that fundamental shift changed everything about how their relationship functioned and how the public perceived them. Observers started noticing things. Meghan's appearances without Harry got less engagement. Her projects seemed to stall without his involvement. The public was more interested in what Harry was doing independently than what she was promoting. Their brand had always needed both of them, but it was becoming clear that Harry could exist without it.
Is there anything you'd like to say at all about wearing that LA Dodgers hat last week and getting it all water?
Dodgers hat, guys.
Whether Meghan could was still an open question. Industry people started whispering about a potential future with Harry rebuilding his image completely separate from Meghan. He'd go back to focusing on the causes he'd always cared about: mental health work, veteran support, conservation efforts, without the layer of brand strategy and content creation that had defined their California life. Some even speculated about reconnecting with parts of his past, though that seemed complicated and distant. What became undeniable was that Harry had the sympathy, the public support, and increasingly, the power. Meghan, who'd orchestrated so much of their public narrative up until this point, was watching it slip away. The home security footage that was supposed to show their authentic happiness had instead become the catalyst for Harry's independence and her loss of control. And after that shift happened, after Harry took his power back...
Yes, that actually happened. Harry and Meghan walked right into one of America's biggest baseball events, dressed in matching Dodgers blue.
And the public rallied behind him. There was no going back to how things were. So here's where we're at. Montecito's still under that massive global microscope. Cameras pointed at every window, everyone watching every move. But something fundamental has shifted inside that mansion. The carefully built image, the perfectly crafted narrative, the brand that was supposed to take over Hollywood, it's not what it used to be. And everyone can see it. Harry isn't the guy who just goes along with everything anymore. He's not sitting back, letting his life become content for someone else's narrative. He drew a line, and for the first time in years, he's the one holding the power. The transformation has been stunning to watch. From the guy who looked uncomfortable in every video, who seemed trapped behind forced smiles, to someone who's actively shaping his own future. Not a small change, but a complete rewrite of who he is and how he operates.
Meghan Markle is getting free tickets, and that pisses people off. People went crazy going, wait, what the hell are Harry?
The home security footage that was supposed to humanize them, that was supposed to show the world their authentic happiness, ended up doing the exact opposite. It became the catalyst for everything that followed. The arguments, the backlash, the projects falling apart, the brand collapsing, and ultimately, Harry's decision to take back control. One leaked video exposed years of tension that had been building underneath the surface. Meghan's carefully calculated strategy backfired in ways nobody could have predicted. Every move meant to strengthen their image ended up weakening it. Every attempt to control the narrative pushed it further out of her grasp. And the public made their choice. They chose Harry. They chose the person who looked trapped and finally broke free over the person who seemed to be holding the camera. Projects are stalling. Deals are pausing. The cracks are showing. The empire they spent years building is crumbling, and the question now isn't whether it can be saved, it's whether it's even worth saving. Because when your brand is built on partnership and your partnership is fractured, when your appeal is authenticity and nothing feels authentic anymore, there's no easy path forward. Harry's out there living on his own terms now, doing interviews he chooses, attending events that matter to him, spending time on causes he actually cares about instead of what tests well with focus groups. He looks different, lighter, more present, like someone who's finally breathing after holding their breath for years. And people are responding to that realness in ways they never responded to the manufactured content. Meanwhile, the footage that started all of this is still out there, being analyzed, being discussed, showing everyone what went wrong. It's a reminder that sometimes the home you build isn't actually a sanctuary. Sometimes it's just another stage with better lighting.
Meghan Markle and Prince Harry were given a cheeky warning by Serena Williams at the ESPYs. The star-studded awards show celebrated sports.
The power dynamic has flipped. The narrative has escaped. And Harry, the guy who everyone thought would just keep playing his part forever, decided he was done performing. He chose his piece over their brand, his boundaries over her content, his life over their image. And once someone makes that choice, once they take their power back and refuse to give it up, there's no undoing it. When your private life becomes public performance, someone has to control the camera, decide what's sacred and what's shareable. Harry just made it crystal clear that it won't be at his expense anymore. Not his home, not his peace, not his life. The question now is what happens next. Can their brand survive this? Can their relationship? Or was this the moment that changed everything beyond repair? One thing's for sure, the world is watching. And this time, Harry's not the one who leaked the footage. So what do you think? Is this the end of their brand or just the beginning of something completely different? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and if you made it this far, thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.